Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out, join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.
Good morning and welcome. I'm glad you're here to join me in How to Fight CPS with Bob Pace. I'm your host right now. And the reason why I'm speaking a little loud because I got a lot of distraction here. I'm trying to do this at home. But anyway, I am sorry to say that Facebook is not connecting with StreamYard. So if you look for me on Facebook and try to connect to me, I don't know how you will or not. I see one person in here. I've not seen my show producer yet. She somehow is out there. So anyway, I'm hoping my voice is loud enough. I'm not too loud here, but you've reached a podcast all about CPS. And what is CPS? I call it the Child Protection System. Now, the Child Protection System is all the entities in all the states and counties. CPS is worldwide, by the way, because I have 18 countries of people calling in about their problem, whether it's Bangladesh or India or the Middle East or Africa or Europe or South America or North America or even out in the Pacific, Australia, New Zealand. All these countries have called me, about 18 of them, and have texted me about how to help with their child protection system problem. Now, it's like even in California with two counties, Orange County and LA County, next to each other, it's called CPS in Orange County, Child Protection Services. That's the one that I've been fighting for 15 years. And then next door in LA County, it's called Department of Children and Family Services. Now, I know it gets confusing. So instead of me sitting here with all the different agencies, I just say CPS, the Child Protection System. It's also different in Arizona. It's Department of Children's Services, DCS. And in Arizona, it's Department of Children's Services there. And then in Kentucky, it's called the Cabinet. So I've gotten to know a lot of people from around the room, around the world, not around the room, but from people coming into my room. Now, it looks like the only way you can see me is to come in through YouTube, I guess, and find me, because Facebook, it is an error problem right now. It's an error problem right now. But the Child Protection System is a government agency that's mandated by Congress. A branch of social services is supposed to watch our children and protect them from neglect and abuse. Those are the two things you need to look at. And the way they do that is that they get calls from lay people who are like your relatives, your neighbor, your boyfriend, girlfriend, acquaintances, and professionals, your teachers, your administrators, your doctors and nurses, your caregivers, policemen and firemen, and so forth. Now, the people that are professional know how to look for abuse or neglect because they have to be trained. It's also because of their job, they have to report any indications of abuse or neglect. For instance, a teacher knows a child come to school dirty and not clean, clothes are disheveled. Then the teacher is going to ask the child to speak to him in private and find out if he's not getting bathed or getting clothes changed at home. Or a kid will come in with all kinds of bruises all over his face, like he'd been in a fight. The teacher will ask, how did you get the bruises? The doctor will say the same thing. He will detect if the bruises were caused by a physical force, not like a trip or injury playing football or soccer or something. So those professionals usually pretty much in tune on when they recognize abuse or neglect. But the lay people use it for alternative motives. For instance, the neighbor may not like the way the neighbor's plants are growing over their yard. So they will call CPS and make up a false story that their child is running loose. The only problem is when CPS investigated, that neighbor doesn't have children. Or they'll make a false accusation when one spouse wants to get at the other spouse. And they'll make up stories to try to alienate the children. Children do need both parents. The biological parents, as studies have shown, are the best parents to raise their kids. They need to know things because no one is born with a manual of how to react or how to love or how to care or how to do divorce or how to do marriages or how to date or how to have a baby or, how to stop bullying. These are things that I call life skills. And these are things that should be taught, whether you're in preschool, pre-K, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, college. They should be taught all the time. It should be a full-on course that maybe talks about bullying with elementary school kids. Because my kids were bullied in elementary school. They were bullied to the point where one time my son was beat up on the playground in middle school. It was wrong when kids sit there and demand money from children. That's called bullying. Or he's out to slide in elementary school where he's bullied by kids. Or a teacher told my son, you'll never work in McDonald's. It was a substitute teacher. So lay people do have a tendency to make up stories and punish families. The only bad thing about it is that CPS has to believe that all stories are true. If someone calls in and says the child is running loose with no clothes on, they have to believe that is the truth, and then that parent's can be charged with neglect. The only problem is CPS is so corrupt because they've been instilled with all kinds of way of making money off families, not from the families, but by getting money from the federal government. You see, the federal government has an endless supply of money they send to the state, who in turn sends it to the county. There's no reporting. There's nobody watching the money being transferred around. There's no accountability. CPS is very, very, very corrupt. And they'll lie and they will retaliate. Retaliate so much that I lost my daughter. My wife and I lost our daughter from retaliation by a social worker that was very young, had no license, no high school education, no college education, wasn't even trained about how to handle CPS cases. You're going to find a very corrupt agency. And so CPS is supposed to, protect our children, but they've gone overprotect. Then there's the cases of the children that really need protection. Several weeks ago, there was a girl, a 3-year-old girl. She was 5 years old. And she was raped by a 25-year man in a house that they're living in. And so she ran away to a homeless camp. The problem is the homeless camp was in the cold. She didn't have proper clothing. She didn't eat. And she was on her deathbed when they finally got her into the hospital. They lost her. A 5-year-old girl. Now, what did she do wrong in life? There are so many stories of young children. One of my listeners on this show, a loving mother, Faye, in Richmond, Kentucky, keeps track of over 1,000 kids in Kentucky that was killed in the hands. The other night, a woman from Macon, Georgia, reported they found her son that was taking her from CPS dead in a pit ball. Now, the pit ball is the games that children play. It's like a square play pin that they dump a bunch of balls in there, styrofoam balls. But the child was only 8 months old. It couldn't walk yet. It couldn't walk yet. And the child had bruises all over the body. They think apparently other kids were playing with it, manhandling it, and then the child ended up in the bottom of all the balls. But that was sad for the mother to have to tell me that she lost her child. Where was the CPS protected? It was in the CPS's hands. So CPS doesn't do it. There's another horror story in Ohio about a woman that went on vacation for a week, came back later, and her daughter was still in the playpen area. It was actually one of the bouncy chairs, dead. And she was asking, why did my child die? Well, she died of dehydration and no food for a week. She was left alone in her diapers. So maggots, and she got E. coli. Do you think about the pain, the torture that child goes through? So I'm painting you a picture that CPS is horrible. You already know it by being in my room. You already know it that CPS doesn't care. Now, I don't mean that to be absolute because I've had 3 social workers come on my podcast. One is Carol from Maryland, who said that she is a clinical psychiatrist and had 6 months of training in Maryland, and that she does things totally different than what I explained. I'm glad that she does, because I believe there are some good social workers out there, but they're far and few. Let's not forget the 8 pink ladies. Now, the ladies weren't pink, but they bought pink t-shirts. There were social workers working for the Department of Children's Services in Prescott, Arizona. Now, Prescott, Arizona is known for the Billy Jack movies. There was 4 of them made in the late 1960s, early 1970s. And if you don't know about Billy Jack, you look him up. But he was a martial arts, and he wanted to help out Indian families and Indians. There's several reservations in Prescott. Anyway, these social workers decided to purchase these pink t-shirts, not for breast cancer awareness, but to stencil on the front of their t-shirts. They wanted to stencil, "We are professional child kidnappers." That is coming from the social workers. And on the back, they put, "Parents, do you know where your children are at?" And they paraded around in Costco, Kmart, Walmart, Target, Best Buys, all of the largest department stores, sending a clear message that they're professional child kidnappers. And do you know where your children are at? They were caught in Prescott. They were all fired, along with the director of the Department of Children's Services. That left them with one person to work the program, Protect Their Children. How is he going to answer all the calls? How is he going to investigate all the cases? There's at least 1,000 children not being protected a day. And right now, there's over 500,000 children being investigated for child protection services. 500,000 children in the United States alone. And we already have a bad case of trafficking, where children are picked up and taken in to traffic to the east, they're taken by containers from the port of Long Beach, the port of LA, and sold to these other countries as slaves and sex trafficking. It is a horrible, horrible thing that's out there. And so what I'm trying to tell you is that you got to be careful out there. Just a moment, please. All right, I'm back again. I do apologize to all you listeners out there. I thought I would have a quiet environment. It's usually my neighbor playing his guitar music at the time I put my show on, or it's neighbors yelling in the neighborhood, which is typical. And it's hard when you live in apartment living because unfortunately, CPS lost my home. CPS lost my home. I had lost my job through no fault of my own in 2010. I had worked for a guy that had lured me by paying me more money and making more promises. I kept my end of the promises. I brought in $53 million worth of public work contracts for the state of California. He only wanted 10 million and I had 53 million, and he wanted 20% profit and I had it. But unfortunately, the governor at the time, Schwarzenegger, was seeing his state collapse, his government state collapse. So he went ahead and he wrote IOUs on all the government contracts they're supposed to do with public funds. That was wrong. I could have sued the state of California, but it would cost $50 million to sue. My contract was worth $53 million, and the owner did not want to spend $53 million to get $50 million to get $53 million. So I had to close my doors on general contracting because I could not. I even went to the banks, and the banks were bad this time. The banks were really bad. They were giving out predatory loans. I had one. I had a beautiful home, but I couldn't understand how I could qualify it on the money I was making. And I did not know that the guy behind the scenes was forging the documents saying I made twice as much as I was making. And I was making good money. I was making close to $250,000 a year. But he showed me making $500,000 a year. That's what it costs for a $1 million home. You've got to be making $500,000 for a $1 million home. The down payment is easily 20%. So I lost my job and I hung on to my home as long as I could. But I too lost my home because I needed money to hire an attorney to fight my children being returned to us. They had 3 of my 6 children. And I have 42 years of marriage experience, 32 with my last wife. And then I have, all these children that I've tried my best. Okay, just a second. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm bad, right? I'm back right now. I'm sorry. Hopefully I'm talking. Okay. I got the unmute button. But anyway, um I don't know where my show producer is. Okay. My show producer is doing another task for Mr. Davis, so that is fine. So as I was saying, my life has been disheveled by CPS. I haven't talked about it, but I've done over 700 podcasts, over 1 year, over a year. I've talked to over 600 people, either texting or on the phone. And these people have all had a very sad, tragic problems with CPS. I never have talked to anybody except for the 3 social workers about any good thing about CPS. I hope someday they'll talk to policemen, because policemen out there are listening to social workers like they're God. They're following the directions, and they're being used for intimidation purposes and for wrongly acquiring children. When you hear a knock at the door, you do not open the door. You do not let them in. There's for 2 reasons. One, they may kill you dead on the spot. There was a 23-year-old Air Force airman who was very proud to serve in the United States Air Force. His mom is from Alabama, and he's living in Gainesville, Florida. And you can look this up because it happened this last year in 2023. It happened this year, 2024, in May. It was May 3rd, the day after my one of my daughter's birthday. He was opening the door, and the guy shot point blank. And he died on FaceTime talking to his girlfriend. What do you think the emotion of the tragic feeling that girlfriend had to lose somebody she loved? What do you think the mother did, losing somebody loved? And what do you think the Air Force? He's serving our country. He could be doing drugs or out holding up banks or shooting CEOs. But what does he do? He joins the Air Force. And he's proud to serve. And so this is what I'm telling you out there. Don't open the door. There was a black woman that let a policeman in, a sheriff, and his counterpart. And they were having an argument. And he didn't like the way that she was talking to him. So he pulled out his gun and shot her in the face 5 times. I don't know what this habit of shooting somebody 5 times. A gun chamber, I think, is 6 chambers. Maybe it's only 5. But people lose their cool. And policemen should not be allowed to carry a gun if they can't control their emotions. Too many times people are shot dead in the heart instead of shooting in the foot or the leg. That policeman could have shot the guy at the door in the foot or the leg. Why did he shoot him directly in the chest? Yes, that was a tragic experience. And yes, he's relieved of his job. He's being sued. But is that airman going to come back? Is the CEO of United Healthcare going to come back? That he was shot by a young kid who came from a great family, did a valedictorian, and look what he's done. Look what he's done. So don't open the door. That's what I'm telling you. The other reason is they're going to take your children. They'll ask you for permission to take your child. And of course, you don't know better. And you say, sure, here's my child. I trust you. You see, that's a hard thing to trust, child protection services. It's really hard. They're so corrupt. I know how corrupt they were. They were corrupt in my case in Orange County, California. My wife and I went to the director of the Child Protection Service in Orange County, and his office was in a 14-story building. It looked like the Taj Mahal of India, or maybe the Emerald City of Oz. And we met with him, and it went in one ear and went out the other ear. His supervisors were no more better. And what they did is they came to my home. A policeman directed me and told me like I had to go to my home. I could have said no. Unless you arrest me or have a warrant out, I'm not going to my house. I don't have to. I did not know the law. So what this policeman did, he ordered me to open my home. I should have known something was up when I saw 5 firemen, 2 code enforcement, 2 uniformed policemen, 3 social workers, and the detective, all standing in my front yard. And I was in a private neighborhood with CC&Rs. And I had a $2 million home in front of them. And of course, I let them around. It was a beautiful home. You don't know how hard it is to work 45 years, working 60-hour weeks, 6-hour days, just 8-hour, 10-hour days. It was terrible to get a home finally, to try to take care of your family, That's all my purpose has been since I've been married, is to try to be a provider, to try to make sure they got shelter and food and all the necessities of things. At one time, I used to give out those necessities, but I can't afford what I did. I kind of spoiled my family. I spoiled my family with the trips to other countries, with everything they wanted at Christmas. And it's sad. But anyway, that's a whole different story. But I'm telling you, don't give up your children. Don't let them in your home, because they will take your child. So many of you told me that you gave them permission. You didn't know. I didn't know. I don't know. And my wife told me, do not talk. And I blew it. I talked. And I told the detective and the social workers everything under the sun, which I should never have said, because I thought I could trust a government agency. I thought I could trust the United States government and all its people. I thought I could trust the police department. I at one time had gone through police training to be an ocean lifeguard in Virginia. So I went to the Academy of Policemen in Virginia, and I received training in how to make an arrest and how to apprehend. Because on the beach, not only you're supposed to protect swimmers from drowning, you have to deal with intoxicated people, with people that break out in fights. And you have to learn. A lot of people do not know what the rescue buoy is used for, the rescue can. It is a flotation device that helps and aids you bringing someone close to shore. But it's also hard enough that you can wipe them in their stomach and knock them over if they get out of hand. There are really weird people at the police. So I had police training. So I know how police are supposed to do with arrest, or how they're supposed to apprehend people. The police are supposed to serve and protect. They're supposed to serve and protect. So when a policeman comes in their combat fatigues and their bulletproof vest, armed to the tooth to apprehend you, you are very much distilled. In fact, my family, my wife and children were threatened with guns drawn on my family. Now, that was not necessary. There was never any firing going on, but that's their SOP where I live. Guns drawn, ready to shoot. Yes, it's sad to hear that a lot of the policemen are shot. I know that happens all the time. That's part of the job. When you serve, you have to realize your life could be on the line. But it does not give you the right to carry a loaded weapon and not know how to use it. Firearms are nothing but evil things. They kill. They kill people. You see on the news, our president's been shot at 4 times. He should have been dead 4 times. But he survived. A lot has to do with who I believe in is God. God is a wonderful, wonderful entity that you can pray to and ask for help, for forgiveness. He also entrusted his son, who was on earth, to help people. He was one of the greatest people that walked the earth, and he will come again. I believe that. But we got to be careful out there. We need to embrace the 10 Commandments. And that goes for social workers too. They have to develop good people skills. They should be trained. They should be high school educated and college educated. They should get a degree in social work, a degree in social work, a Bachelor of Science in social work. They should also get a minor. And the minor should be in what's it called? The psychological, my mind escapes now. clinical psychiatrists. They should get a minor in clinical psychology. Further, they need to have mentoring. They need to follow a social worker for at least, say, a year to see how it's done by an older social worker who's done a good job. Just like a doctor goes to medical school, then he does an internship. The internship lasts 2 years. Then after the internship, he does a residency. Then after the residency, then he gets his license. Then after that, he spends a good 5 years being mentored. That's how a doctor goes. Attorney does the same thing. Attorney will go to law school, and then you'll have to get a license. Social workers need to be licensed. They need to be licensed, and it should be a renewable license because things change. They have to learn how to help out people. And I've been talking a lot about life skills. I've been talking a lot about CPS and what kind of individuals they are. And I really like to talk to you in my room. I really want to, because every day you guys talk to me, and I'm very glad of what you said. Now, there are 4 ways that you can interact in this room. One way is just by being in this podcast. And please send me your emojis, like thumbs up and smiley faces and hearts. Also stars. Send me stars. And on top of that, it's very important that you listen and take notes because you'll learn things. Now, if you don't, if you want to do more, you can go ahead and send me. Oh, I'm missing it. Sorry here. They've added some more comments. So when typing, okay. Yeah. When a second way of interact with this podcast is you can type in messages. Text me messages. They should be either comments or questions about the Child Protection Services. Please show me your first name, the city or county your case was in, the state, and if you're from another country, please list your country along with your province if it's not a state. So I'd like you to try that format. Now, another format that you get in this room here is that you can be our guest on my podcast. I take up to 9 people, including myself, as 10 at one time talking. And you can be a guest and be allowed to talk on this podcast. All I ask you is to pick one of my shows. Now, I'm on 7 days a week, twice a day. I'm on at 10 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock at night. Those are both Pacific Standard Time, and that's 1 hour. And for those that are on the East Coast, remember you're 3 hours ahead. This is broadcasting from Southern California. I'm at Surf City, 3 blocks from the ocean. And I do the podcast from my home. That's my studio. And I work for Vincent W. Davis. He is a family juvenile dependency lawyer with over 35 years experience. You heard him at the beginning of my show. He's a trial attorney. He fights for cases. He'll fight for your cases in Orange County, LA County, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Northern California, like Merced County. All of California do, plus he does the other 49 states. He has a case in Oklahoma. He has a retainer, but you need to talk to him because he needs to know what kind of a case you have and how long it's going on. That will determine his legal price. Further, if he goes out of the area, he needs per diem, which is your housing, your food, your ground transportation, your air transportation. That's additional to the legal costs. Yes, it can be expensive, but with most places charging $300 a night for accommodations, and now it's about, you got to figure at least $25 a meal now. So if you eat 3 meals a day, that's $75. So that's $375, and their car rental is now about $50 a day, or it could be less than that. Say $25 a day. So it can be added up. It can add up. So I realize it's more than maybe a lot of you make, and it's not your fault in the predicament that you're in. And I have several ways that you can talk to Mr. Davis. You can talk to Mr. Davis. Now, to be on this guest, all you have to do is email Grace at vincentwdavis.com. Grace at vincentwdavis.com. Pick the date, morning or afternoon or evening, morning or evening, and Monday through Sunday. Now, on Saturday, I am on a different time. I try to be on at 8 o'clock in the morning because Mr. Davis has a weekly broadcast at 9:30. And he wants to share insights. It's a question-answer Zoom meeting. Please register for the school. It's free to join the school, and you have to register for that program to see the live podcast. Further, on Sunday, I have church. I like to pray to God. I like to be close to God. And so Sunday, I go to church, and so my show is on at 8 o'clock in the morning. And this Saturday is the last of Monday Night Lights football. That's high school football that I go every Friday night. But now the team that I'm following is in the playoffs. They're in the best playoffs of their life. They're going for not only the state championships, but they're going for the national championships. And this is the third time in the last 10 years that they've won 3 national championships declared, like they had a perfect season and start to finish in the rankings. They've run already 6 national championships and 4 state championships. And I forgot how many CIF championships. But anyway, this Saturday, I want to come on at 3 o'clock instead of at 7 o'clock so that I can have enough time to drive to the game. It's a little bit further south of where I live, and it takes about 40 minutes to get there. So I need to have time to drive there. So those are the times. Now today, I got word this morning at about 9 o'clock that I needed to change my show time because my attorney, Vincent Davis, had an important podcast to do at 10 o'clock. So I moved my podcast from 10 to 11 o'clock. So that's why I was delayed in starting. But I do try to tell you ahead of time on when I'm going to be on and not be on. Now, you just send that show time to Grace at vincentwdavis.com. She'll give you the link to get on StreamYard. And you can do that. So I am happy that you're in here. I want to thank you for your emojis. I've yet to have anybody call in or text me a question. It may be because all the Facebook pages are down. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages, and they are all down. My 7th page is a YouTube page, which if you're YouTube, you can find out. And my 8th page is StreamYard. That's the application I'm using, and it's broadcasting using YouTube. I have a StreamYard application using YouTube. And you can find me on Facebook, Fight CPS Bob Pace. And hopefully the other pages will be repaired shortly and so forth. Now, another number that I have on the screen, 888-888-6582, is my office. It's my law office of Vincent W. Davis and Associates. There you can call in if you want to retain Mr. Davis. You already have your mind made up. You want him, you can call him. Also, if you need other legal needs, like you need an immigration attorney, a real estate attorney, a workman's place attorney, a accident attorney, or you might need a criminal attorney or a divorce attorney. He has all the attorneys that will help you. He really wants to be a good lawyer for you and a good attorney. He means well. He's a pit bull of a fighter, but he gives away a lot of his time for free. He gives a lot of money for free. So he's a good person. He's a good person. So I want you to know that if you're looking for an attorney, he's the one to go. Now, one of my first rules is you need an attorney. And when you need an attorney, it's very important that you have one, and you should ask these questions. One, and you may ask the law firm or the attorney you speak to when you call, are you a family juvenile dependency attorney? An attorney that deals in dependency law with families and juveniles. And further, you fight CPS. The second question is you ask them, have they ever did a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit against CPS and won money from cases? If the answer to those two questions is yes, then you found one of many attorneys you may want to have. I hope that you can afford Mr. Davis. I sold my home to get the money to raise to fight Mr. Davis. And he got back. 3 of my children were stolen from us, trafficked from us, taken from us, alienated from us. And he got back my 2 boys. Unfortunately, the daughter wasn't returned. And it was not his fault, because you're dealing with an agency that's very corrupt. And I'll give you a good example of a corrupt agency, a corrupt social worker. My social worker was in her early 20s. She was not married. She didn't have a high school education, didn't even have a college education. She had no license and no experience. And she was entrusted our family. What they did is that they demanded our children, and they weren't in danger. They were not in danger. They didn't have a warrant, and there was no fighting or harm to the children going on at the time of their abduction. They were trafficked into foster care because they wanted the money. They get $20,000 per child per month. That's $60,000 they were getting from the state for our children, let alone anything else they were getting. And they were taken. And it was sad. They were taken. Well, this social worker, when she was on the stand, because my wife's sister and her husband wanted to adopt our young daughter. She was 12 years at the time. And Mr. Davis asked a couple questions of the social worker during the adoption process. And one of the questions he asked, how good of parents are they? And the social worker very proudly said, they're great of parents. They'll make a great mom and dad for the daughter. Then Mr. Davis opened his briefcase and brought out a folder. And in the folder, he had 30 reports. And these reports he read one by one. And it put the social worker into distraught mode, into embarrassment mode. Because what he's reading was reports of domestic violence. Not only were they domestic violence by the police, it was physical domestic violence. That means the 2 couples were fighting each other when the police showed up. And they had all these incidents. And one by one, she left the courtroom in embarrassment. Because why? She committed perjury. Now she's opened herself to a lawsuit. And if I had the $50,000, I would have sued her. But I was later told that I'd have to come up with $50,000. I don't know what this magic number is, $50,000. When wanted to sue the state of California, I was told it cost me $50,000. When I wanted to sue my social worker, it'd be $50,000. I don't know if people think the minimum fee is $50,000, but anyway, I couldn't afford it. So she got away with murder. Not only did she do that, she said, "You're never going to see your daughter again." That is a bad threat. But she made it good. You know what she did? She went and talked to her daughter, who's very precocious, and trusted the social worker. And she said, "You're going to emancipate from your parents. That means you're going to divorce your mom, your dad, your two brothers, your three brothers, and your two sisters, along with your both sets of grandparents, and your aunts, your uncles, and your cousins. The whole family is wiped out. Further, she said, you're going to get rid of that name of yours." And she had a beautiful name. Her middle name was Hanalei, the most beautiful name that we could give somebody because it's a beautiful place. Hanalei Kauai is what I call the Garden of Eden, heaven. There must be a heaven. There must be a heaven because Kauai at that place, Hanalei is. And that is a very beautiful place. But she eliminated her name completely. She made a new name, a name that she wanted. And it hurts every time I hear our boys mention that name of hers. Further, she was told to seal her birth certificate, meaning to close her birth certificate and get a new birth certificate. Why? So that the foster care parents that she's going to adopt could be placed on the birth certificate as mom and dad, and got a new social security card. That's against the law. She had two social security cards. That's illegal. And if I wanted to make waves, I could have fought that. I could have told social services and had that social card removed and had those foster care people punished, because my daughter was under the age of 18, so they couldn't go after her. And I should have done that. But a lot of these things you don't know till after the fact. But she illegally used a social security card to get benefits. And where'd the benefits, by the way, come from? They came from me. They came from me. The reason why is that I had acquired, because of my age, when you reach a certain age, you can get more Social Security. So each child that I had was getting additional Social Security to help with their expenses. And so I got that money to the all three turned 18. Now, why? These people that she was adopted were making, both of them were making over $1 million. They're wealthy. They don't need more money from Social Security or more money from wherever they're getting money. But they took our daughter. They conned her. And she's 22 years now, and we had Thanksgiving. Well, me and my wife didn't. We sat there and stared at each other and said, what point of Thanksgiving? Our two sons took off to be with her at her foster care. And they had a lovely Thanksgiving. They went to Costco and bought it already cooked, already prepared. Yes, I've done the same thing at Whole Foods. I've done the same thing at Sprouts. It does save time. But they are $1 million parents. And they're so lazy to not cook a home-cooked meal. But we did have Thanksgiving. I had to wait till Monday. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Because that was the only day that my two boys had an opening for time. So me and my wife sacrificed having a Thanksgiving on Monday. And it was good. I want to give thanks to Mr. Davis for that Thanksgiving. But anyway, we had Thanksgiving. So our daughter is now 22 years old and wants nothing to do with us parents. The rest of our family, we had a family of 8, 3 girls, 3 boys, and a husband and a wife. That's a family of 8. I have a dining room table that has 8 beautiful chairs. It was for that one time I wanted to have a meal with them. Someday, I don't know. Someday my dream is, before I die, is to have a table of 8 loving people. We all have a connection. We all have a connection. We are all connected biologically. And that family of 8, I don't know if I'll ever see till I die. It's a sad, sad, sad tragedy. But I do love my family, what's left of my family of 4, and I want to take care of them. And I am looking for work, but it's hard at my age. I'm 75 now. I'm a dinosaur, they say. I don't feel like a dinosaur. I don't walk like a dinosaur, and I don't look like a dinosaur. But anyway, before I fade back here, my picture, my thing is there. We're getting to the bewitching time of my podcast being used up. And yes, I've talked about me. I've talked about family. I've talked about CPS. I've talked about what they've done and how horrible it is. But I want you to know there are I should put my phone number up in case anybody wants to call in. My phone number is up at 626-698-0990. There are 4 rules that I've come up with. And yes, today we've not really talked about Coors Digest or talked about other cases. I've talked about what CPS want to go through. But these 4 rules will help you. Rule number 1, I've talked about it, get an attorney. And you're going to say, well, I got a court-appointed attorney. I got a public defender. Well, those public defenders don't have the time to defend you. They're not even qualified. They're in criminal law. They're not in dependency, juvenile family law. On top of that, they have clients of 30 or more. They're not going to fight your case. It was so embarrassing when I tried to use my public, or my wife used her public attorneys. They were useless. They were useless. You need to have an attorney. I had two good attorneys that I was paying. One for my wife and one for me. Because in court, you have to have your own attorney. The kids had public defenders, and they didn't care. They went along with the program. That's what CPS hopes you do, is take a public defender, because they don't care. They won't fight for your case. So you need somehow to have an attorney for you and your spouse and for your children if possible. The rich can, but the poor can't. And that's the sad part. They say, oh, you got public defenders. Well, the public defenders aren't paid enough. They're paid by child protection system, and they're not a fighter. So that rule number 1 is you need to get an attorney, you need to get an attorney, a juvenile family dependency lawyer, somebody who's fought CPS and also done civil suits. That's the attorney you want to get. Rule 2 is you need to get all your documents together. You need to have a notebook, 11-inch by 8.5-inch with 3 rings, and put all your paperwork in there. I used to write on envelopes and Post-it notes and all over the place, my day runner and my computer and stuff. It's too hard. It's best to stuff that with college rule notebook paper and write the old-fashioned way. Get yourself some subject dividers and organize it. Put your court to mind in one area. Put your parenting class certificates in another area. Put your program certificates in another area. Put your medical reports in another area. But there's one important document that you need to create. It's called a time log incident. Time log incident. Now, incidents are anytime you deal with anybody. You deal with the police, you deal with the social worker, you deal with the school administration, school people, you deal with caregivers, anybody you deal with, foster care, what it is. And you record and you keep a time log, because that's going to be your documentation that you need to prove to court. And you do your first line, you put your date, the time, the location, and the people that are involved. The second line is a summary, a 1-sentence summary of what the incident was about. And the third line is the outcome of the incident. If you don't have the outcome, leave it blank and fill it in later. Then skip a couple lines to the next incident. Soon you have 40 or 50 incidents. And by a year, 2 or 3 years, it took me 3 years to get my 2 boys back. And that was from 2015 to the December of 2017. And the 3 boys were getting back. And so that was there. So, I want you to keep that notebook going because it'll save you. Rule number 3 is, I've already talked to you, do not open the door. Do not let anybody in your house. They'll leave a card on the front door, or they'll leave a note if it's important. And then you can call them and find out what's about. If you meet social workers outside or meet police outside, tell them that you want a timeout. And the reason why you're asking for a timeout is that you want your lawyer present. Anytime that you're involved with a criminal matter, your constitutional rights is to have a lawyer present at all proceedings. So it's so important to have this lawyer present because they will help you decide what to do and not to do. You don't want to talk to social workers. You want to keep it to a minimal. If they say hello, you say hello. And then if they ask your name, you can give your name. But then other than that, when they start asking further, that's the time that you interrupt them nicely and say, we'll have to meet. And where you want to meet with them is not in your home, not at their office. You want to meet at a public place so you can record them and document them, like McDonald's or Starbucks. And you want to meet with them with your attorney. Now, if they have a warrant, they can come in your home and they can take your child. They can talk to you. They can do all kinds of things. But the warrants got to be very specific. And there are fake warrants out there. It's very important that that warrant is on paper, not a PDF file or a computer. And that warrant says who is being accused of, all the parties in the case. After that, it says what children are being accused of and what the reasons are, neglect or abuse or both. Further, it's got to have the address of where this investigation is going to take place. And then it's got to give specific directions and time and date what they can do. Take your children, search your home, talk to you, things like that. And the date and time they can do that. Then it's got to be signed by a judge because the policemen or the social workers have to go before a judge. And they have to say that they're having a hard time seeing this person. They need to do it. They have to have a good reason, and they will come up with one. And they will get a warrant. It's not hard to get a warrant, but it takes time. During that downtime, you should think about maybe taking your children elsewhere to live with a relative out of state so they can't touch your children. Maybe they go visit that grandma and grandfather while you deal with them in the state because they will try to take your child. Now, they can enter the home if a domestic violence is taking place. If you're arguing with your spouse, that's a no-no. If the children are getting physically involved and listening to that is very harmful, they will come into your home and they will take your children. That's not a safe environment. My children were taken when they were at school. That was wrong. That was a no-no. Further, if you have a medical trafficking on there, that's where you take your child to urgent care or the emergency room at the hospital. Or you're going to have a baby at the hospital. Do not give up your children. They again have to have a warrant. Have the hospital escort the policemen and the social worker out to the lobby. They don't have to be in when you're having your child. You don't have to surrender your child without a warrant. Same thing going with your children are. If you have a difference of opinion with the doctor, you're entitled to see your pediatrician. You're entitled to another opinion of the doctor. If it's life-threatening, you should let them proceed with saving the child. Now, I have rule number 4, which is real easy. You want to go to the internet and research your case, but you have to have a format to look up. You want to have the city, followed by the state, followed by CPS, and then what you want to find in CPS. Now, your city, if it's a small city, you may want to put the first city, comma, second city. Like Athens, Georgia, you may want to follow Athens and Atlanta, Georgia. And then your topic is whatever you want to look up. Your topic is whatever you want to look up. And lastly, and I'm getting ready to close my time here, is that what you want to do is that you want to have a folder or an envelope and put all your important documents, such as your children's birth certificates, your children's social security cards, your children's grade reports, your marriage certificate, your birth certificate, your your spouse's certificate. You also want to put in any medical issues that you may have. You want to put in the shot records and the report cards of the children. You want to put in the driver's license. All these documents you can make copies of and put it in there, because you'll need to keep that with your notebook. And you keep them together anytime you deal with CPS. So this ends my time. I gave you over 1 hour of my time. And I want to thank you for listening. It may be hard. I didn't have much activity. I think what happened is that a lot of people come in through Facebook. But this is recorded. I hope you listen with an open heart, that I'm a caring, loving man. I have 42 years of marriage experience. I have 8 beautiful children that I love dearly. And I love my wife, and we've been going through so much heartache dealing with CPS. CPS is not your friend. They will retaliate. They're not transparent. Change has got to be made. Change has got to be made. But I'll be again on tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I look forward to talking to you again. And also maybe have you all ask a question or be a guest on my podcast. So again, I want to thank you. God bless for you. There will be a brief message from my attorney, Vincent Davis. Please listen about his Saturday podcast. And I want to say, keep fighting for your children, and God bless y'all. This is Bob Pace signing off.
Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out. Join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.